Princess Zixara of the Vexillian Empire stood alone in her private chamber aboard the royal flagship. Her 4 arms were positioned precisely at her sides as attendants worked around her. They attached the final pieces of her ceremonial armor. Living metal plates that shifted colors with her emotions. Right now they glowed a deep purple, showing her tension. Today was the day she had trained for her entire life. The day of the diplomatic ascension ritual with the newly discovered species called humans. The princess had spent years memorizing the sacred movements. She had practiced the ritual phrases in 17 different languages. She had perfected the exact 90-degree bow that would show respect to these humans without making her look weak. Everything had to be perfect. The future of relations between their species depended on it. "Your Luminance," said Chief Diplomat Threx as he entered the room with a low bow. "The human ship has docked. Their ambassador will arrive in 20 minutes. Zixara nodded once, the only movement allowed to royalty. When acknowledging a subject, "Are the greeting chambers prepared according to the ancient texts?" "Yes, Your Luminance. Every detail follows the traditions established over 3,000 years ago. The sacred oils have been burned. The ancestral stones are arranged in the pattern of diplomatic welcome. The guards know their positions." Threx paused, "But I must warn you again about these humans." The princess tilted her head slightly. "Speak freely." "Our research shows they are unpredictable creatures. They lack the discipline that evolved species should have. Their emotions guide them more than logic. They touch each other frequently, and without proper ritual." Threx's skin rippled with disgust. "We have prepared as best we can, but expect irregularities." "I have studied their broadcasts," Zixara replied. "They are young as a spacefaring species, but they have potential. That is why this first official meeting must follow all proper forms. We will guide them toward civilization." The chief diplomat bowed again. "Of course, Your Luminance." When Threx left, Zixara allowed herself a small break from the royal posture. Her shoulders relaxed slightly and she took a deep breath. No one but her personal attendant Mix was present to see this moment of weakness. "Are you concerned, Your Luminance?" Mix asked quietly while adjusting the princess's ceremonial headdress. "Curious?" Zixara corrected. "No Vexillian royal has met a new species in over 400 years. My father entrusted this honor to me as preparation for when I take the throne." "I cannot fail," Mix nodded. "The royal line has maintained perfect diplomatic form for 3,000 years. Your training has been flawless." Zixara's armor flickered briefly to a lighter shade. "Did you know humans have only 2 arms? How do they manage complex tasks?" "Perhaps that explains their primitive technology," Mix suggested. "Perhaps." The princess resumed her formal posture as a chime sounded. "It is time." The walk to the greeting chamber took exactly 7 minutes. Zixara counted each step as she had been taught since childhood. The great doors to the chamber opened silently. Inside, 12 royal guards stood in perfect formation. Their ceremonial spears gleamed under the soft blue lights, designed to put visiting species at ease. The princess took her position on the raised platform. Chief Diplomat Threx stood 3 steps below her, where he would serve as translator if needed. The sacred stones formed a path from the entrance to the speaking circle where the human would stand. "The human ambassador approaches," announced the door guardian. "She is alone as requested." Zixara felt a moment of surprise. "She? The ambassador is female?" "Yes, Your Luminance," replied Threx. "Humans allow females to serve in positions of authority, another sign of their unusual social structure." The princess had no time to consider this information as the doors opened again. A human female entered the chamber. She was shorter than Zixara had expected. The human had curly brown hair cut short around her face. She wore a simple blue uniform with a small symbol on the chest that the princess recognized as the human alliance emblem. Most striking was the expression on the human's face. The corners of her mouth were turned upward in what Vexillian researchers called a smile, a facial movement. Humans used to express many different and sometimes opposite emotions. The human stopped at the edge of the speaking circle, exactly where protocol required. At least their research team had prepared her properly for this part. Ambassador Lily West of Earth and the United Human Systems, announced Threx formally. You stand in the presence of Her Royal Luminance, Princess Zixara, heir to the Eternal, throne of the Vexillian Empire, guardian of the 17 realms and voice of the Ancient Ones. Do you come in peace and with proper intent? The human smile grew wider. I do, she said in a clear voice. Earth and humanity are honored to meet the Vexillian people. We hope this is the beginning of a friendship that will benefit both our civilizations. Zixara noted that the human spoke well, though her words were less formal than Vexillian diplomatic language. Now came the critical moment. The princess raised her forearms in the precise configuration that had begun peaceful relations with 37 other species throughout Vexillian history, her upper right arm extended forward with palm up. The upper left arm curved over her head with fingers spread in the pattern of welcome. Her lower arms formed the symbol of mutual prosperity with one palm facing inward and one outward. The ancient texts stated that the visiting species would recognize the honor being shown and respond with their own gesture of peaceful intent while maintaining proper distance. Ambassador West's eyes widened slightly. She seemed impressed by the formal pose. Good. The princess prepared to hold the position for the ritual 30 seconds before beginning the spoken part of the ceremony, but something unexpected happened. The human stepped forward, crossing the boundary of the speaking circle without permission. A ripple of tension passed through the royal guards, though they remained in position. Threx made a small sound of alarm. Ambassador, you must remain within the designated area before he could finish. Ambassador West did something completely outside all diplomatic protocol. She moved quickly toward the princess, arms outstretched. The guards tensed, but were trained not to interfere unless there was clear danger. In a move that shocked everyone in the chamber, the human wrapped her arms around Princess Zixara's body and pressed against her in what humans called a hug, a gesture completely absent from all Vexillian diplomatic records. Zixara froze in absolute shock. In 3,000 years of royal history, no outsider had ever made direct physical contact with a member of the royal family outside of ceremonial combat or medical necessity. Her armor flashed bright crimson in alarm, then shifted to a confused yellow color never before seen during a diplomatic meeting. The 12 royal guards finally broke formation, raising their weapons halfway. They looked to the princess for a command, but seemed unsure what to do in this unprecedented situation. Through the physical contact, something strange happened. The specialized receptors in Zixara's skin evolved to detect threats and assess. Other species registered an unexpected chemical signature from the human. The princess detected high levels of what humans called oxytocin and serotonin, chemicals associated with positive emotional states. This was completely outside her training. The human was expressing what her people called affection, a concept that had no place in formal Vexillian diplomatic relations. Chief Diplomat Threx looked as if he might faint from horror. Ambassador West, he hissed urgently. Release her luminance immediately. You have violated our most sacred protocol. This is grounds for immediate termination of diplomatic relations. The human quickly stepped back, looking slightly embarrassed, but not truly regretful. I'm sorry, she said, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely sure what she had done wrong. Where I come from, a hug is a friendly greeting. I meant no disrespect. The entire chamber waited in tense silence for the princess to respond. According to tradition, such a violation should result in the human being escorted back to her ship and all contact severed. The incident would be recorded as a diplomatic failure, but Princess Zixara found herself hesitating. The brief contact had triggered something unfamiliar within her, a curiosity that went beyond the rigid structure of her training. It's acceptable, she said finally, her voice steady despite the confusion she felt inside. The room fell even more silent, if that was possible. No one had expected this response. But your luminance, Threx began, clearly distressed. The ancient texts clearly state that physical contact with royalty is forbidden to outsiders. It has been this way since the ancient texts, Zixara interrupted, surprising everyone. Again, did not account for humans. Her armor had now settled into an unprecedented shade of blue-green that no one in the chamber had ever seen before. We will continue the diplomatic mission as planned. I wish to learn more about this. Hugging, custom, and other human traditions. Ambassador Lily West's smile returned, bigger than before. The guards slowly returned to their positions, though they remained alert. Chief Diplomat Threx looked as though his entire world had been turned upside down, and perhaps it had. For the first time in 3,000 years of perfectly executed diplomatic ritual, something new had happened. Something unplanned, something human. Back on the human ship, Captain Sam Nelson watched the video feed with growing concern. He stood on the bridge with his hands clasped behind his back, surrounded by his senior officers. "Did Lily just hug the alien princess?" he asked, rubbing. His forehead. Communications officer Kelly Martinez groaned beside him. "Yes, sir, she did. We're going to start an interstellar incident because Lily can't keep her hands to herself." "To be fair," said First Officer Jack Harper, no one told her. "Not to." The briefing only mentioned maintaining eye contact and speaking clearly. Captain Nelson sighed. "Because we assumed basic diplomatic sense would prevent anyone from grabbing alien royalty." He tapped his communication badge. "Nelson to Ambassador West." There was a pause before Lily's voice came through. "West here, Captain. I'm still in the meeting with Princess Zixara." "How is it going?" Nelson asked carefully. "We observed some unexpected physical contact during the greeting." "It's going surprisingly well," Lily replied, sounding cheerful. "There was a brief moment of shock when I hugged her luminance, but she's actually quite interested in human customs now. We're moving forward with the diplomatic talks." Kelly raised her eyebrows in surprise. Jack looked equally shocked. "Understood," Nelson said slowly. "Please join us for a debriefing when you return." After ending the communication, the captain turned to his crew. "Well, that's unexpected. Let's hope her instincts are right. Our orders are to establish peaceful contact with the Vexillians at all costs. They control access to 3 resource-rich sectors we need for the colony expansion program." Back in the Vexillian greeting chamber, Princess Zixara had ordered all but 2 guards and Chief Diplomat Threx to leave. The formal ritual had been abandoned entirely, which had never happened in recorded Vexillian history. Instead, she and Ambassador West were seated in what the humans might call a casual arrangement, still formal by Earth standards, but shockingly informal for Vexillian royalty. "So, your people use physical contact as a regular form of greeting?" Zixara asked, her head tilted in a way that showed genuine curiosity rather than the practiced royal interest she had been taught. "With friends and family, yes," Lily explained. "Hugs, handshakes, kisses on the cheek, it depends on the relationship and the culture. Different human groups have different customs, but touching is pretty universal in one form or another." Threx made a small sound of disapproval but said nothing. His presence was required by protocol, but the princes had made it clear that this meeting would not follow standard procedures. "Fascinating," Zixara said. Her armor continued to display the unusual blue-green color. "In Vexillian society, physical contact is highly regulated. Royalty are only touched by personal attendants, medical professionals, or during ceremonial combat training. Even then, there are strict rules about which parts of the body may be touched and for how long." Lily looked surprised. "That sounds lonely." The princess's armor rippled slightly. "Loneliness is not a concept recognized by royal doctrine. We exist to serve the Empire, not to seek personal comfort." "But you're still people," Lily said. "Don't you ever just want to connect with someone, to feel like you belong?" "Chief Diplomat." Threx finally spoke up. "Ambassador, such questions are not appropriate when addressing her luminance. The royal line exists above such common concerns." Zixara raised one of her upper hands, silencing Threx. "It is a valid question, Chief Diplomat, and one I find myself considering." She turned back to Lily. You said there are different forms of physical greeting among humans. Would you demonstrate a less intimate one than the hug? Lily smiled and stood up. Of course, the handshake is our most common formal greeting. She extended her right hand, holding it out in front of her. Zixara hesitated, then rose and extended her upper right hand. Lily gently took it and moved it up and down a few times before releasing. That's it, the human explained. Simple, brief, but still a connection. It started as a way to show you weren't carrying weapons, but now it's just tradition. The princess looked at her hand curiously. The sensation was pleasant, less overwhelming than the hug, but still meaningful. Her armor had lightened too. A softer shade of blue, Threx looked as if he might have a medical emergency at any moment. The guards remained stoic, but their eyes showed their shock at seeing their princes engaged in such foreign behavior. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ship, Royal Advisor Krell was in urgent communication with the Vexillian homeworld. He spoke in hushed tones to a projected image of Elder Counselor Vrax, one of the highest authorities in the Empire. The situation is unprecedented, Krell reported. Princess Zixara allowed physical contact with the human and has now abandoned the ritual of first contact entirely. She appears to be engaging in casual conversation with the ambassador. Vrax's face showed the limited range of expression allowed to high officials. This is deeply concerning. Has she been examined for contamination? These humans may carry unknown pathogens or use chemical influences. The royal physician has monitored her life signs remotely and detected no issues, Krell said. However, her armor has displayed colors never before recorded in diplomatic settings. The human influence must be contained, Vrax declared. Prepare the princes for immediate return to the homeworld. She requires purification and retraining before the contamination spreads, Krell bowed. As you command, Elder Counselor. Back in the meeting room, the conversation between Zixara and Lily had moved to other topics. The princess was particularly interested in human family structures. So your leaders are not born into their positions? She asked, clearly struggling with the concept. Some are, in certain countries, Lily explained, but most are chosen by their people through a process called voting. Anyone can rise to leadership if enough people support them. But how do you ensure they have the proper training? Vexillian royalty began diplomatic education at birth. I spent 40 years mastering the rituals of rulership before I was allowed to represent the Empire, Lily whistled softly. 40 years? How long do Vexillians live? The royal line typically lives 300 to 400 years, Zixara answered. Common citizens usually reach 250 years. How long do humans live? Usually less than 100 years, Lily said. Our oldest person right now is about 120. The princess seemed genuinely shocked. So little time. Perhaps that explains your directness. You have no time for lengthy rituals. I never thought of it that way, Lily admitted. But maybe you're right. We tend to value getting to the point. Their conversation was interrupted when the chamber doors opened without the proper announcement. Sequence. Royal Advisor Krell entered with 4 additional guards. His expression was grave. Your Luminance, he said with a formal bow. I bring urgent news from the homeworld. Elder Counselor Vrax has ordered your immediate return for the ritual of purification and assessment. Zixara's armor darkened. On what grounds? Krell glanced at Lily before answering. Concerns about potential contamination from extended contact with the new species. Standard protocol for first contact situations. The princess stood, her posture returning to the formal stance of royalty. I see, and if I wish to continue the diplomatic mission? A tense silence filled the room. The question itself was shocking. No royal had ever questioned a direct order from the Elder Council. Your Luminance, Krell said carefully. Such a question is unexpected. The order comes with the authority of your father, the Emperor. Lily stood as well, sensing the tension. Perhaps I should return to my ship while you address this internal matter. No, Zixara said firmly. This concerns our diplomatic mission. Ambassador West, in human culture, would it be considered an insult if I were to suddenly depart? Lily thought for a moment. Well, we would understand if there was an emergency, but yes, it might be seen as putting less value on establishing relations with Earth. The princess turned back to Krell. Please inform Elder Counselor Vrax that I will complete the scheduled 3-day diplomatic exchange before returning. The potential for misunderstanding with the humans is too great otherwise. Krell looked deeply uncomfortable. Your Luminance, I'm not certain the Elder Council will accept that response. Then they may send my father himself to retrieve me, Zixara said with a tone that ended the discussion. Until then, we will proceed as planned. You are dismissed, Royal Advisor. After Krell and his guards left, Chief Diplomat Threx approached the princess. Your Luminance, with all respect, this is highly irregular. No royal has ever delayed compliance with an Elder Council directive. Perhaps it is time for new approaches, Zixara replied. Her armor had now shifted to a deep teal color that made Threx step back in surprise. Ambassador West, shall we continue our discussion? I believe we were exploring human governance systems. As they resumed their conversation, Lily noticed a new intensity in the princess's questions. It seemed the alien royal was absorbing everything. About human culture with a purpose beyond simple diplomatic exchange, on the human ship, Captain Nelson received an urgent message from Earth Command. Captain, our sensors have detected a large Vexillian vessel entering the system. It appears to be a warship, and it's heading directly for your position. Arrival estimated in 72 hours. Nelson looked grim as he turned to his officers. The next morning, Princess Zixara requested a tour of the human ship. This caused another wave of shock among her advisors. No royal had ever set foot on a foreign vessel during first contact negotiations. The standard protocol required at least 3 formal diplomatic exchanges before such a visit could even be considered. Your Luminance, Chief Diplomat Threx pleaded, this goes against all established procedures. At minimum, we must send a security team to inspect their vessel first. I will take 2 royal guards, Zixara replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. The humans have shown no signs of hostility. In fact, their openness suggests they have nothing to hide. Threx looked desperate. But the biological risks alone have been assessed by the royal physician, the princess interrupted. Human biology is compatible with our environment. There is minimal risk of contamination. An hour later, Zixara boarded the human ship with 2 guards. Ambassador Lily West greeted them at the airlock along with Captain Sam Nelson. The human captain appeared nervous but maintained a formal demeanor. Welcome aboard the Explorer, Your Luminance, he said with a small bow. We're honored by your visit. Zixara noticed he did not attempt physical contact. Someone had clearly instructed him on proper protocol after yesterday's incident. The honor is mutual, Captain Nelson. I look forward to observing human operations firsthand. The tour began on the bridge, where human crew members tried not to stare at the alien visitors. Most had never seen a Vexillian before. The princess noted how they worked closely together, sometimes brushing against each other without seeming to notice. Their lack of personal space boundaries was fascinating to her. This is our navigation station, Captain Nelson explained. Here is our communications center, where we maintain contact with Earth and other human colonies. You have multiple settled worlds? Zixara asked. Just 3 small colonies so far, Lily explained. We're relatively new to interstellar travel compared to your empire. The tour continued through engineering, medical facilities, and the ships. Small garden area where plants from Earth grew under special lights. Zixara seemed particularly interested in this section. You bring parts of your homeworld with you, she observed, gently touching a leaf with one of her lower hands. The guards tensed but remained silent. It helps with morale, Captain Nelson explained, and provides fresh food on long journeys. And a connection to home, the princess added thoughtfully. In Vexillian ships, everything is artificial. Efficiency is valued above comfort. Next, they visited the recreation area where off-duty crew members were playing a game with cards. When the group entered, the humans quickly stood at attention. "Please, continue your activities," Zixara said. "I wish to observe." After a hesitant glance at their captain, who nodded, the crew resumed their game. The princess watched with interest. As they laughed, teased each other, and displayed a wide range of emotions that would be considered inappropriate in Vexillian society. "What is the purpose of this game?" she asked. A crew member named Alan looked up. "Poker? It's partly strategy, partly luck. You try to make the best hand of cards while convincing others you have something better or worse than you actually do." "You mean deception is part of the entertainment?" one of the royal guards asked, sounding shocked. "It's just a game," Alan explained. "No one takes it personally." The princess observed for several more minutes. "Fascinating. In our culture, games are used to develop strategic thinking or physical skills. The concept of playing for pure enjoyment is ... unusual." As they left the recreation area, Lily noticed the princess's armor had taken on a warm golden color. "Your armor changes with your emotions, doesn't it?" she asked. Zixara seemed surprised by the question. "Yes, it is connected to my nervous system and responds to biochemical changes. Most Vexillians learn to control these responses from an early age, but royalty wear living armor as a sign of our commitment to transparency and leadership." "So everyone always knows how you're feeling?" Lily asked. "In theory, yes. Though the meanings of some colors are kept secret for security reasons." The princess hesitated. "Since beginning contact with humans, my armor has displayed several colors that have never been recorded in royal history." Captain Nelson looked concerned. "Is that dangerous for you?" "Not physically," Zixara replied. "But it is ... confusing. Your species triggers emotional responses I was not trained to manage." The tour concluded in the ship's conference room, where a small meal had been prepared. This was another break from protocol, as shared meals were typically reserved for the final day of diplomatic negotiations after all agreements had been formalized. "I hope you don't mind," Lily said. "Our chef prepared some foods that should be safe for your biology, based on the data your scientists shared." Zixara looked at the colorful array of fruits, vegetables, and what appeared to be some kind of bread. "This is most irregular," she said, but then added, "which seems to be becoming our normal state of affairs." To everyone's surprise, including her guards, the princess sat down and tried a piece of fruit. Her eyes widened slightly. "The flavor is intense, different from our synthesized nutrition." "You don't have natural foods?" Lily asked. "Not for centuries," Zixara explained. "Food production was standardized for maximum efficiency. Nutrition tablets provide all necessary requirements." But no enjoyment," Captain Nelson observed. "Enjoyment of basic biological functions is considered primitive," one of the guards stated flatly. Lily smiled. "Well, humans never outgrew enjoying our food." As they continued their meal, a young communications officer rushed into the room. "Captain, urgent message from Vexillian Command. The warship Eternal Justice has entered the system and is demanding immediate communication." The guard straightened instantly. "That is Commander Drath's vessel," one said. "He is a member of the Imperial Security Council." Captain Nelson looked to Princess Zixara. "Your Luminance, how would you like us to proceed?" The princess's armor darkened to a deep indigo. "The Elder Council is not waiting for my return as I had hoped. Commander Drath is known for his strict adherence to tradition. He will not understand." "What has happened here? Which is what, exactly?" Lily asked gently. Zixara was silent for a moment. "I'm not certain I can explain it properly. In just 2 days of contact with humans, I have experienced more new thoughts and feelings than in the previous 50 years of my life. There is a freedom in your culture that is both frightening and ... appealing. Will you return with Commander Drath?" Captain Nelson asked. "I must," the princess replied. "To refuse would risk creating a diplomatic incident that could harm future relations between our peoples." She stood. "But first, I wish to request something unusual." "Name it," Lily said. I would like to bring several of my junior officers and scientists to your vessel before I depart. Those who might be open to new ideas. I believe continued. Cultural exchange would benefit both our species. Captain Nelson and Lily exchanged glances. Of course, the captain said. We'd be happy to host them. Back on the Vexillian flagship, Royal Advisor Krell prepared for Commander Drath's arrival. The situation had grown increasingly concerning as more crew members heard about the princess's unorthodox behavior. Several young officers had been seen attempting human-style handshakes when they thought no one was watching. The contamination is spreading, Krell told Chief Diplomat Threx. Commander Drath arrives none too soon. Threx looked troubled. I have served the royal family for 60 years. I have never seen anything like this. Her luminance seems changed by the human contact. All the more reason to complete the purification ritual as soon as possible, Krell insisted. These emotional responses must be cleansed before they affect her judgment permanently. And if they cannot be cleansed? Threx asked quietly. Krell's expression hardened. Then the succession may need to be reconsidered. Her younger sibling has shown much stricter adherence to tradition. When Princess Zixara returned to her ship, she immediately called a meeting of her junior staff, 20 officers and scientists. Under the age of 100 gathered in the secondary conference room, looking both curious and nervous. I have visited the human vessel, she told them. Their ways are different from ours, but there is much we can learn from each other. I have arranged for cultural exchange opportunities for those who wish to participate. A young science officer, named Lix, raised her hand, itself a less formal gesture than protocol required. Your luminance, what kind of exchange? Observation of their daily operations, conversation, learning about their history and customs while sharing our own? The princess paused. It will be voluntary, of course. The Elder Council approves of this? Asked another officer. The situation is, evolving, Zixara replied carefully. Commander Drath arrives tomorrow to escort me back to the homeworld for consultation. Those who wish to participate should arrange their visits before then. Later that night, in her private chamber, Princess Zixara stood alone. Her personal attendant, Mix, was the only other person present. Is it true the humans eat real food instead of nutrition tablets? Mix asked as she helped remove the ceremonial armor. Yes, the princess replied. And they play games for enjoyment rather than skill development. They touch each other freely. They choose their leaders. Everything about them challenges our ways. Commander Drath arrived with the precise timing expected of a high-ranking Vexillian official. His warship, the Eternal Justice, took position near the royal flagship, dwarfing both it and the much smaller human vessel. The commander transported. Aboard at exactly the scheduled time, accompanied by 6 elite guards in full ceremonial armor. Princess Zixara waited in the grand reception hall, dressed in her most formal attire. Her living armor gleamed with royal purple, showing no hint of the unusual colors it had displayed during her time with the humans. Chief Diplomat Threx and Royal Advisor Krell stood at the proper distance behind her when Commander Drath entered. He performed the traditional greeting with perfect precision. His movements were so exact they almost seemed mechanical. He was older than Zixara by at least a century, his scaled skin showing the deeper blue tint of advanced age. Your luminance, he said, his voice deep and formal. I bring the blessing of your imperial father. He wishes your immediate return for purification and retraining. Zixara completed the ritual response, her forearms moving in the ancient patterns. The blessing is received with honor, Commander. How fares the Emperor? His Imperial Majesty is concerned, Drath replied. Reports of irregular activities aboard this vessel have reached the homeworld. There are rumors of contamination from the new species. The princess noted his choice of words. Not humans, but the new species, as if they were too foreign to even name. The diplomatic mission has proceeded differently than anticipated, she acknowledged. The humans have unique customs that required adaptability on our part. Drath's face showed the slight twitch that was the Vexillian equivalent of a frown. Adaptability has its limits, Your Luminance. The sacred protocols exist for good reason. They have preserved our empire for 3,000 years. Indeed, Zixara said. And yet, in those 3,000 years, we have encountered no species quite like humans. All the more reason to exercise caution, Drath countered. My ship is prepared for your immediate transfer. The purification chambers are ready, the princess hesitated. She had known this moment would come, but found herself reluctant now that it had arrived. I have initiated a cultural exchange program with the humans. Several of our junior officers and scientists are currently aboard their vessel. Commander Drath's eye membranes flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme displeasure. Without authorization from the Elder Council? This is most irregular, Your Luminance. As future Empress, I deemed it valuable to gather diverse perspectives on this new species, Zixara replied. I must insist that all Vexillian personnel return to our vessels immediately, Drath said. We depart for the homeworld in 3 hours. The princess maintained her formal posture. Of course, Commander. I will inform those participating in the exchange. She turned to Chief Diplomat Threx. Please arrange a final meeting with Ambassador. West before our departure, Threx bowed. As you wish, Your Luminance. As the diplomat left to make arrangements, Commander Drath stepped closer to the princess. It was a subtle breach of protocol, but one that signaled his authority came directly from the Emperor. Your Luminance, speaking privately, I must express concern about your recent behavior. The Elder Council has reviewed reports from your staff. Physical contact with aliens, abandonment of sacred rituals, consumption of foreign substances. These actions suggest a level of contamination that may require extended purification. Zixara's armor rippled slightly before settling back to royal purple. I have simply been thorough in my research of human culture, Commander. Research does not require participation, Drath said coldly. Observation from a proper distance would have been sufficient. Before the princess could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. A communications officer rushed into the hall, breaking all protocols of formal entry. Your Luminance, Commander. We have an emergency, the officer said breathlessly. Our sensors have detected an unknown vessel entering the system at high speed. It does not match any known configuration. Commander Drath turned sharply. Hostile? Unknown, sir. But it's on an intercept course and not responding to hails. Drath immediately took charge. Return to your ship and prepare for possible engagement, he ordered the princess. I will coordinate our defense. No, Zixara said firmly. This is still my diplomatic mission, Commander. We will first attempt peaceful contact with the newcomers. With respect, Your Luminance, your recent judgment has been questionable. I have direct authority from the Emperor in security matters. The princess's armor darkened, and I am still heir to the throne. We will not fire first. Their standoff was interrupted when Threx returned with Ambassador Lily West. The human looked concerned. Your Luminance, Commander, Lily said with a quick bow. Our sensors have also detected the approaching vessel. Captain Nelson has offered our assistance in the situation. Commander Drath made a dismissive gesture. Vexillian security does not require human assistance. Actually, Zixara said, I believe cooperation would be wise. Ambassador West, what does your captain propose? Lily looked between the two Vexillians, clearly sensing the tension. We've been in this region longer than your ships. We've encountered several local species that aren't yet spacefaring but do have orbital capabilities. This might be a first contact situation rather than a threat. A reasonable assessment, the princess agreed. Commander, let us move to the command center and coordinate with the human vessel. Drath clearly wanted to object but was bound by protocol not to contradict the princess publicly. As you wish, Your Luminance. In the command center, tension filled the air as they tracked the approaching vessel. It was smaller than either the Vexillian or human ships, but moving at impressive speed. They've dropped out of faster-than-light travel, reported a Vexillian officer. Current position places them between our vessels and the human ship. Still no response to communications, added another. Commander Drath studied the tactical display. Their positioning suggests hostile intent. They are cutting off potential escape routes, or they're simply curious about seeing two different species ships together, Lily suggested. From their perspective, this might look like a first contact between our peoples. A reasonable point, Zixara agreed. Continue attempts at communication. On all frequencies, the communications officer nodded. Yes, Your Luminance. Suddenly, the main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. The image showed a being unlike any the Vexillians had encountered before. It had a transparent outer membrane through which internal organs were visible, pulsing with bioluminescent light. The being spoke in a series of musical tones that the ship's translation system struggled to process. After several seconds, broken words came through. Peaceful observation doratory permission? They appear to be asking permission to observe us, the communications officer suggested. Their language structure is highly complex. Commander Drath moved toward the weapons control station. This could be a distraction technique. I recommend raising shields and preparing defensive systems. Before anyone could respond, a security breach alarm sounded. Unauthorized transport. Detected in diplomatic section, an officer called out. Intruders? Drath demanded. Unknown, sir. Sensors detect one life form, but it doesn't match known parameters. Zixara made a quick decision. Ambassador West, please return to your ship and inform Captain Nelson of the situation. Commander Drath, secure the command center. I will investigate the diplomatic section with my personal guards. Your Luminance, that is not safe, Drath objected. As you pointed out, Commander, I have been contaminated by human ideas, the princess replied with unexpected sharpness. Perhaps that gives me an advantage in this situation. Accompanied by 4 royal guards, Zixara made her way to the diplomatic section. They found the doors to the greeting chamber open. Inside, one of the transparent beings stood examining the sacred stones used in welcome rituals. When the princess entered, the being turned and emitted a series of musical tones. Its internal organs glowed brighter. We come in peace, Zixara said clearly, hoping the being might have some way of understanding. She raised her 4 arms in the traditional greeting pose. The transparent being studied her for a moment. Then, to everyone's shock, it extended what appeared to be a limb and moved it in a perfect imitation of a human handshake gesture. Zixara hesitated only briefly before extending her upper right hand. The being's limb was cool and slightly gelatinous to the touch, but the handshake was unmistakable. It's copied human greeting customs, one of the guards whispered in amazement. They must have been observing our interactions, Zixara realized. They're learning from both our species. The being released her hand and then produced another series of musical tones. The ship's portable translator struggled but managed to convert some of the sounds. Friendship. Different peoples watching double quotes. Commander Drath arrived with more guards, weapons ready. Step away from that creature, Your Luminance. The being's colors shifted to darker hues and it backed away. Lower your weapons, Zixara ordered. They're peaceful observers. They've been watching our contact with humans and learning from it. This is a critical security breach, Drath insisted. We have no information on this species or their intentions. The princess turned to face him fully. 6 months passed since the first contact between humans and Vexillians. Much had changed in that short time. On Earth, a special diplomatic compound had been established for the 37 Vexillians who had chosen to remain with Princess Zixara instead of returning to their homeworld. The compound combined traditional Vexillian architecture with human design elements, symbolizing the unique cultural exchange taking place. Princess Zixara stood by the large window in her private quarters, looking out at the blue sky of Earth. Her decision to request asylum on the human world had shocked both species. No royal had ever voluntarily separated from the empire in its 3,000-year history. The diplomatic fallout had been severe, with the Elder Council officially declaring her contaminated by alien influence, and temporarily removing her from the line of succession. A chime sounded at her door. Enter, she called. Lily West stepped into the room, now dressed in the formal attire of Earth's chief diplomat to the Vexillian people. Good morning, Your Luminance. How are you feeling today? The princess turned, her living armor glowing with the peaceful blue color that had become her normal state on Earth. I'm well, Ambassador West, though I've told you many times, among humans you may call me Zixara, Lily smiled. Old habits die hard. Besides, many people on Earth still find your royal title impressive. Humans and their fascination with royalty, Zixara said with what had become recognizable as her version of amusement. What news today? Lily's expression grew serious. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected multiple Vexillian warships entering the solar system, a lot of them. Initial count suggests at least 100 vessels, including your father's royal flagship. The princess's armor shifted briefly to a darker shade before returning to blue. So he comes himself rather than sending more commanders. This is both better and worse than I expected. Earth's defense forces are on alert, but we're hoping this will be a diplomatic visit, not a military one, Lily said. My father does not bring 100 warships for a social call, Zixara replied. But neither would he destroy a world simply to reclaim one princess, even his heir. He seeks to demonstrate power while creating an opportunity for negotiation. The UN Security Council is meeting now. They've requested your presence, the princess nodded. Of course, the human leaders will want reassurance, she paused. Has there been any communication from the ships? Just one message addressed directly to you. Lily handed her a data tablet. It's from your father. Zixara read the message, her expression unreadable to human eyes, though her armor rippled with waves of color. He wishes to see what has become of his daughter. He demands my presence. Aboard his flagship. You don't have to go, Lily said quickly. Earth has granted you asylum. We can refuse the demand. And risk war between our peoples? No, the princess set down the tablet. I must meet with him. But I will request neutral ground, perhaps your United Nations headquarters. 2 days later, the world watched as the Emperor of the Vexillian Empire prepared to land on Earth. It was an historic moment broadcast to every corner of the planet. Security was unprecedented, with both human forces and the princess's loyal Vexillian guards working together. In the preparation room adjacent to the UN General Assembly Hall, Princess Zixara waited with her closest advisors. Among them was Chief Diplomat Threx, who had surprised everyone by choosing to remain with the princess on Earth. Your Luminance, Threx said, his voice showing more emotion than would have been permitted on their homeworld. Are you certain about this meeting? The Emperor may simply be planning to take you by force. My father respects strength and wisdom even when it challenges tradition, Zixara replied. These past months on Earth have taught me much about both. Young science. Officer Lix, who had become one of the princess's most enthusiastic supporters, spoke up. The Cultural Exchange Institute you established has already made remarkable progress. Over 200 human scientists and diplomats are now learning our language, and we have begun to understand concepts like humor and casual friendship. Yes, the princes agreed, and 43 of our people have experienced the human custom of hugging without suffering cultural collapse. Her armor shimmered with the teal color that had become associated with her new outlook. Perhaps there is hope for even my father to understand. Captain Sam Nelson, now Earth's military liaison to the Vexillian visitors, entered the room. The Emperor's shuttle has landed. He brings 12 royal guards and 3 elder counselors, including Vrax. Vrax's presence is concerning, Threx noted. He was most vocal about your contamination. Or perhaps he wishes to see the source of the contamination firsthand, Zixara suggested. Either way, we will proceed as planned. The princess took a moment to center herself, then walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned to Lily. Ambassador West, would you walk beside me rather than behind, as humans do with their friends? Lily smiled. It would be my honor. The UN General Assembly Hall had been prepared for the historic meeting. The Emperor would enter from the north entrance, the princes from the south, Meeting in the central area where special accommodations had been made for the Vixilian physiology, when the doors opened and Princess Zixara entered with Lily at her side, a hushed silence fell over the gathered diplomats and leaders from Earth. The princess wore no royal regalia beyond her living armor, which glowed with confident blue-green tones. She had adopted some elements of human fashion, wearing a simple draped garment over her armor, rather than the elaborate royal coverings of her people. From the opposite door entered Emperor Zithorn, sovereign ruler of the Vixilian Empire. He was larger than his daughter, his scales darker and bearing the marks of great age. His living armor was deep imperial purple with gold accents that had been part of the royal image for millennia. Behind him walked Elder Counselor Vrax and two others, their expressions severe. Father and daughter stopped 10 paces apart, as dictated by ancient protocol when royal family members met in formal settings. The emperor performed the ritual greeting perfectly, his forearms moving in patterns unchanged for thousands of years. Princess Zixara began the traditional response, but then did something unexpected. She completed only half the ritual before lowering her arms and taking a step forward, closing the distance between them. "Father," she said in their language, loud enough for all to hear through the translation systems. "I greet you, not just as my emperor, but as my parent. Much has changed since I left our homeworld." Emperor Zithorn's armor darkened. "So I see, you have abandoned our ways for alien customs." "Not abandoned," Zixara corrected. "Expanded. The humans have taught me that tradition can coexist with growth." "The reports were not exaggerated," Elder Counselor Vrax said, his voice cold. "The contamination has progressed beyond recovery. She even stands as an equal with the alien." He gestured toward Lily. The Emperor studied his daughter carefully. "You were to be my successor, guardian of our ways. Instead, you fled to an alien world and rejected your heritage." "I did not reject our heritage," Zixara replied. "I questioned whether our adherence to form over substance serves our people. Well, for 3,000 years, we have perfected the art of interaction without connection. We have ritualized every aspect of our lives until the rituals became more important than their purpose." Her words echoed through the hall, translated into dozens of human languages. The Emperor's armor rippled with colors that few had ever seen from the normally stoic ruler. "You speak of connection," he said. "What connection have these humans given you that your own people could not?" Princess Zixara turned to Lily, then back to her father. "They showed me that strength can exist in vulnerability, that touching another being can convey more meaning than hours of ritual speech. That difference need not be threatening." "Pretty words," Vrax sneered. "But they do not change the fact that you betrayed your royal duties." "My duty is to lead our people toward a better future," Zixara countered. "Father, the galaxy is changing. New species are emerging into space. We cannot meet them all with the same rigid protocols developed millennia ago." The Emperor was silent for a long moment. The entire hall held its breath, humans and Vixilians alike waiting for his response. "Show me," he finally said. "Show you what, Father? This human connection you speak of. This thing that was powerful enough to turn my daughter away from 3,000 years of tradition." Princess Zixara hesitated only briefly, then she looked at Lily and nodded. The human ambassador stepped forward. "Emperor Zithorn," Lily said formally, "with your permission, I would demonstrate a human greeting of friendship." The Emperor looked at this small alien creature so different from his people. "Proceed," he said with royal dignity. Lily approached carefully. The royal guards tensed but did not interfere. With gentle movements, she extended her arms and embraced the Emperor of the Vixilian Empire. The collective gasp from the Vixilian delegation was audible. Emperor Zithorn stood rigid, his armor flashing colors so rapidly it appeared to be shorting out. For a moment, it seemed the incident might end in disaster. Then, slowly, the Emperor raised one of his lower arms and awkwardly patted Lily's back, mimicking what he had seen humans do in their broadcasts. When Lily stepped back,